personal note, it's got to be tough. But as we talk about the professional approach here, are there details you can share with us about how you got those parents back? How closely coordinated, sir, were you with the Detroit PD when that manhunt was underway?
Super closely coordinated. The chief is a friend. Actually, we've been talking this morning about a lot of the different logistics. You know, we have a close partnership with Detroit, with the FBI, with the U.S. Marshal Service. We actually had the Border Patrol helicopter involved. So there were all sorts of partnerships, the Michigan State Police, so many we can't even mention, but we work extremely well together, local, state, and federal. And as soon as the fact of the matter was that they were in the wind, at least not turning themselves in, we applied every leverage we could, got it out, and got obviously the conclusion we got in no small part because of that cooperation, and especially the Detroit Police Department. Big kudos to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Apprehension, the key there. Let me ask you about the 3 defendants, all of whom are now in your jail. Can you describe their demeanor?
They're not talking much to us on a number of levels. Obviously sullen, but not a lot of conversation. We have them in my jail, all in separate and segregated spots, keeping a close eye on them. Yeah.
When you say sullen, elaborate a bit on that. Is there sadness? Sullen indicates to me a level of defiance. I mean, is there any remorse being expressed?
We've not seen any remorse. I don't know whether the sullenness is from being caught or whether it's from, other emotions that are going on, but they haven't expressed it to us.
Are they able to see each other and communicate with each other? Are they closely housed? No?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So you've said that Ethan Crumbley was intent on killing as many people as he could. So how exactly was he stopped?
Well, we have been, sadly, because we knew that this was a trend across the country and world, training extensively, both with our agency, the Oakland County Sheriff's Office, and actually many years ago, I called every police chief in our county together, and we established a group called OAKTAC and began training every police agency in the county on active shooter protocols with the primary mission of going in immediately, no staging, no waiting, going in immediately and seeking out the gunfire, seeking out the threat and stopping the threat, because every second you pause or wait can be another victim. And so that's exactly what happened. Our deputies entered the building, and within 2 to 3 minutes of them arriving on scene, they had the suspect in custody, who still had 18 rounds of live ammunition. So lives were saved from that training, that practice, and that effort on behalf of our deputies. And I couldn't be more proud of the way they went in and did exactly what I asked them to do, which is really a difficult thing. They have to go past very panicked, sometimes hurt kids because they have to find the active danger so we don't end up with more of them. That's a very difficult thing on a human emotion. And then the second thing, we trained with this school, as we have with a lot of schools, on what to do should there be an active threat. And they exercised that routine really well. They went into lockdown, and we saw that by evidence inside the school, where doors and windows into the classrooms were shot but not breached, where barricades were enacted and doors were put into lockdown status. So all of this remained in the hall. Still deadly, still incredibly tragic, but that also, I believe, reduced the number.
So you mentioned Ethan being found with 18 rounds of ammunition. We also know, Sheriff, that there was an incident prior to the shooting in which a teacher observed him looking at his phone in class, and he was looking at ammunition on that phone. But he's not legally old enough to buy it, right? So where did he get it?
Well, obviously his parents had to purchase it. No, he can't legally buy ammunition. He can't legally possess or own a pistol.
What about the search of his home? Can you describe the kinds of things you were looking for when you went there Tuesday night? Did that extend into Wednesday at all? And share anything that you did found that you think is helpful?
Well, we obviously seized a number of things. We have a pretty decent sized tally sheet. We were looking for anything that may be evidentiary in value to how this played out, who may be culpable, both digital or physical evidence. And so that was what was seized from that home. I can't really get into the evidence because at this point we're in a handoff mode to the prosecutor for trial, and we don't want to jeopardize any of that.
Okay, let me ask you about one thing, though, that did offer a level of discrepancy today in the arraignment that we heard. The prosecutor said that the handgun was stored in a manner to allow access by the minor child. Defense lawyers are saying it was locked. So there's a discrepancy there. Was it a gun lock? Was it the firearm itself that was secured behind some sort of a lock? I mean, can you describe that?
We have no evidence, excuse me, that it was locked. None whatsoever.
Okay, well, that's plain and simple and pretty direct right there. So the investigators, sir, are still working on how the parents managed to elude arrest and then who might have helped them along the way. What can you tell us about the charges that may still be filed related to this part of the investigation?
It's obviously still ongoing on a lot of levels, but it appears as if when at the moment they weren't actually suspects, it was just around the time of the search warrant that was investigating their son, that they left and went to unknown locations and ultimately ended up in Detroit. Now, what we are actively looking at and working in close partnership with our partners in Detroit, I just talked to the chief, we certainly believe that there may be something else that is potentially forthcoming about someone assisting them to be in that location.
Okay, the parents certainly in custody now, but how were they allowed to elude in the first place? I mean, you were standing right next to the prosecutor on Thursday when she said that a charging decision was coming in 24 hours. That would happen on Friday. Is it normal for surveillance to begin when charges are being considered?
Well, we were already doing workup packets on them just in case when there was the potential, and we already had begun some processes that we had the availability to do to look for them before any warrants were issued. Understand that a lot of our real tools only come after warrants are issued, but we were already looking for them in a different kind of manner. And our full-on fugitive activity goes before warrants are issued. We're already looking for them and where they may be or may be headed as early as Wednesday. So, but we did not have a line on where they were or have any kind of surveillance on them because we didn't know where they were at that point. And at the point where they apparently left, again, it's all part of the investigation. It was before there was even any focus on them.
Okay. Sheriff Bouchard, you have offered high praise for how the folks responded to the school shooting, including just a couple of minutes ago on this broadcast. But what do you make, sir, of the school officials being alarmed enough to summon the parents on Tuesday morning and insist on immediate counseling? I think they said within 48 hours for their child, but then allowing the parents to say no and walk away and just send Ethan back to class? Well,
obviously, that's super sad for us on a lot of levels. We always encourage school districts, businesses, wherever, if they have anything of concern, bring us in. We'd rather check out 1,000 nothings than miss one real deal. We have protocols very often, sadly, that we utilize in these kinds of situations. In fact, the day after this, we received information, a tip that a child had threatened the school. We were brought in, we investigated it, we arrested the child. And then after that happens, we always do a follow-on search of the house and communication with the parents to look for access and availability of weapons. So we arrested somebody the day after that in a different district on the same kind of thing. That's the kind of intervention that happens when we're brought in and we see something of concern. And sadly, we weren't brought in on that particular day.
Yeah. The Oxford school superintendent, sir, put out a video statement on Thursday night. Here's a little part of that. Let's take a listen.
There's been a lot of talk about the student that was apprehended, that he was, called up to the office and all that kind of stuff. No discipline was warranted. There are no discipline records at the high school.